I'm excited because I finally get to share with you the process that I use to review project proposals. My name's Chris, and in this video we're going to run through step by step how I review project proposals and how I can help you get your project approved. On this channel, I like to share the sorts of tools, tips, tricks that I've learned over the years as an engineer and a consultant to help cut through the complexity of business problems and help communicate solutions a bit better. So in this video, we're going to look at step by step how to review a project proposal. So the first step to look at when reviewing a project proposal is to consider what our objectives are. So take a step back and consider not just necessarily what the objectives of the project are, but what your objectives are as an individual. Are you a reviewer who's just looking over this project proposal? Are you evaluating this project for the reasons that it's going to be conducted? Or are you the one who prepared it, taking a step back and saying, well, does this proposal meet my objectives? So the first step in reviewing a project proposal is to identify your objectives. Because then what we do is we take it through to develop some criteria against those objectives, then to read the proposal, then to see how that proposal met those criteria, and then whether that proposal, of course, meets the objectives. And that's the basics of how we're going to review our project proposal. I'm going to go into more detail about how to evaluate these criteria, how to pick these criteria, so don't worry too much. But the basics are, what are your objectives as the reviewer or the one who evaluates the project? What are the criteria you're going to review the proposal against? Actually read the proposal and mark down how it meets those criteria, and then evaluate if those criteria, if meeting those criteria have met your objective as well. I'm going to run through how exactly we pick those criteria, or how I've done so in the past at least. So I've evaluated a few project proposals in my time, both as the reviewer, as the person who wrote the project proposal, checking my own work to make sure that it does meet our objectives, then a proposal that someone else has prepared and then given to me to help review and to give some feedback on. I've also been on the other side of the table and evaluating a project for its viability in terms of how we're going to, is this project useful? Should we undertake this project? So the first thing, like I said, I like to do is figure out what our objectives as the reviewer are. What do we want to see? What sort of thing do we have in mind? So this could be, so our objectives could be things like providing a cost-effective review for our client, or providing a cost-effective study, or to complete this building within a certain amount of time, or to realize this benefit that I have a vested interest in. So picking our objective first, because then for each of these criteria that I've got on the screen here, the deliverables, the team, the cost, the program, and the methodology, then to link all of those back to your objective and say, well, do these criteria meet our objective? So these are the criteria that I typically look at when I'm evaluating a project proposal. And I like to understand how the project is addressing all 5 of these items. So how these items link back to my objective. So often my personal objective aligns with that of the project, but sometimes when I'm evaluating a project on behalf of a client or on behalf of someone else, it may not necessarily be aligned. So these 5 criteria are, first, looking at what is being delivered. So are we delivering a whole building? Are we just delivering a little report or a study? Are we delivering a process change? What is the project? Is it going to deliver some drawings or a report or a study or an evaluation itself? So understanding what is being delivered is the first criteria that I use when evaluating through a project proposal. Now, these aren't necessarily in the order of importance. The importance of these just relies back onto your objective. So, for example, let's say cost effectiveness was one of your objectives, then cost would probably be the most important one. But not in any order for the criteria, but the second one I like to look at is who is doing the project. What is the team involved? So not only what is the team, what is the information about the team, what is their experience, but what is their organization? Who is in charge? Who is going to be actually doing the work? How many managers are there? What are their roles and responsibilities? So that's the second criteria that I like to develop, looking at who is involved. So this is a bit of an esoteric explanation of criteria, but if you want some hard examples, for example, looking at the team involved, you might say the project manager must have a minimum of 15 years experience having done something similar, or must have delivered a similar project in the past. or some criteria like that could be how you evaluate your team, or who is doing the project in this case, depending on what sort of evidence of evaluation you have to provide. But understanding who is doing the project is the second thing I look for when I'm doing the evaluation or when I'm doing the review. So the third thing that I look at is the cost. Now, like I said, this could be the most important factor for your project. Not only the cost of delivering the project, but the cost savings of the benefits of the project, or anything to do with dollars over time. So some of the ways I look to evaluate a project proposal, review a project proposal when I'm the one who's prepared it, is what is the cash flow over time? So how much money is the project spending and how much money is the project receiving? Now, this is an important one for consultants. If you're a consultant out there, make sure you worry about your cash flow. Make sure you worry about how often you're getting paid, how often money is being received, compared to how often money is going out to the people who are delivering the project. So that sort of cost. So cash flow being one of them for consultants. You might also look at earned value. Could be one if you're building a building or producing, say, a set of drawings or something. Or it could be money saved in the future, could be a consideration of your cost. So this is where you look at, could this project be viable? But again, based on your personal objective. So if you're looking at the project from a evaluation perspective of deciding whether or not to pursue this project, looking at the overall saving over the lifetime of whatever this project affects could be the decision factor for you. So looking at the cost, the third factor that I like to consider, the third set of criteria that I like to develop. So the fourth set I like to develop is about when will the project be delivered. And so you might see this represented as a program or a Gantt chart where it discusses. So you look at, say, what is being delivered, the building or the report or the study, whatever is being delivered, you break it down into tasks of work, and then scheduling those tasks out. We look at the methodology in a second, but scheduling those tasks out over time to identify when the project will be delivered, what sort of milestones are involved. So things like this can be, does our proposal meet our timeline? Can we get this project done in time? Is there sufficient time available? What can we do instead of more time? And I should mention also that within each of these, in particular the costs and the time, is also to consider the risks involved. So what sort of risks or issues might you face, and have they been addressed in the proposal? So this, while I haven't listed it as a separate criteria, making sure that the risks have been addressed could be included in cost, could be included in delivery, and then the mitigation of those risks could be part of the methodology or the team or the cost of the program itself. So developing the program, asking what time frame is being looked at for this project. And that's one of the criteria I like to develop within to conduct this review. So the final criteria is the methodology, the process, the how the project will be delivered. So this one is a bit hard to evaluate. It really depends on what sort of project you're doing. So for example, I did one where the methodology was about designing some circuitry for a particular, designing a computer system for a particular train control, for a type of train control. And the methodology used to build this circuitry system, this computer system, was quite involved and had to follow a standard. So we looked at, did it comply to the standard? Was it realistic that the project team would be delivering to this standard? And then was it cost effective as well? Could there be a different standard that they chose to follow in delivering this computer system? So there's sorts of questions you can ask when you're looking at the methodology. What steps are going to be followed? How does it link to the deliverables and the cost? Or how does it link to the timeline and the cost? Does it produce the deliverables you want within that? And then of course, does it give you an option to comment on the meantime? What sort of gates or stages are involved with the project? And so that's the sort of thing you can ask in the methodology to evaluate your project by, to the sort of things you can ask in the criteria of methodology to evaluate your project proposal by that methodology. So these 5 criteria, and remember that risk should be included within them, give you a baseline to review your project against, give you that opportunity to review your project, covering all of the key criteria that you can develop to make sure that your objective is being met. So my name's Chris, and I like to share some of these tools that I've developed over the years as an engineering consultant. And these are the tools that I use to evaluate a project. If you're interested in more tools like this, please leave a comment below. This channel is all about those tools that can help you cut through complex problems at work and also to help you communicate those problems to other people. So part of this evaluation is being able to record and show other people that you've really considered each of these criteria and the risks as well in evaluating or reviewing this project proposal. So hopefully that gives you a bit of a starting point for reviewing. Please follow along if you'd like to see similar videos like this in the future, because evaluating a project based on its feasibility, which isn't something I've touched on in this one, I've kind of glossed over cost. But if you're interested in evaluating a project based on its feasibility over the project lifecycle, please hit subscribe because I'm planning a video like that soon. So hopefully I'll see you in the next one.